And I'm so grateful to be joined by Geri Perna, your nephew.
Yes.
Matthew Perna. He was part of the January 6th.
Right.
Can you tell me what happened? And I know recently you were testifying on the Hill. Well, first, can you tell us what happened?
Well, just very quickly, my nephew went into the Capitol on January 6th. He didn't break anything, touch anything. He didn't have any altercations with police or anything like that. He stayed within the velvet ropes, only to find himself arrested a week or so later and charged with the felony of obstruction of an official proceeding. Matt went through a nightmare of 13 months of back and forth with the DOJ. They wouldn't bargain any of the charges off for him, and he finally pled guilty, and he thought he was going to be looking at 6 to 12 months in prison. It wasn't just before a week before his sentencing hearing, the DOJ was going to impose a terrorism enhancement, which could have put him in prison for 9 years. And that very same week, my nephew hanged himself in his garage at 37 years old. Since that time, I've been advocating for him and trying to draw attention to the January 6ers and how they are being treated to the point where they would sooner take their lives because they are totally without hope.
Because your nephew is not someone who was involved in anything nefarious ever in his life.
I don't believe my nephew ever had a parking ticket prior to January 6th. He wasn't a member of any organizations or groups. He was just simply a person who loved his country and felt that the election was stolen, and he wanted to stand up for it. And by attending a rally, it literally ruined his life. We no longer have free speech in this country. And that is something people need to wake up and realize, that it just does not exist anymore. And my nephew is proof of that. So I did have an invitation by Congressman Matt Gaetz to appear before a field hearing in Washington, D.C. last month. And I did go and I testified and told them exactly what had happened with my nephew and how he was treated, and how there is a bill presently in Congress, the Matthew Perna Act of 2022, which Louis Gohmert drafted before he left Congress, and Marjorie Taylor Greene co-sponsored the bill. So I did bring that up to them at this congressional hearing because I just don't feel our Congress people are doing anything to help the J6ers.
And what would that bill do?
That bill would basically, one of the main things in the bill would allow for a change of venue for anybody that's charged with a crime in D.C. The problem with this is they're not being given a chance to have a change of venue, so they're being tried in a jury of mainly Democrats. They're not getting fair trials. Perhaps if my nephew and the other J6ers were given that opportunity to have a change of venue, they would have stood a better chance of having a fair trial, and maybe my nephew would still be alive today. And that's the reason they're pleading guilty. People are constantly saying, oh, well, they must be guilty. They pled guilty. Well, that is just simply not the case. They're not really given a choice here. So he pled guilty, and then that wasn't enough for them. They wanted to add this terrorism enhancement. And my nephew was just broken at this point. I mean, he was broken. He was a very vibrant human being, very active, very into his community and travel. And I mean, you name it, my nephew did more than most people will ever accomplish in his 37 years. And it was taken away from him. And his will to live was taken away as well. The thought of 9 years in prison was more than he could handle. And he took his life. And our family is never going to be the same, ever.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
But
Thank you so much for carrying on his memory and the work that you're doing, because I think then there are so many people who don't really understand, including myself, exactly what happened on January 6th. And we're just looking for answers.
Right.
We're trying to find answers. It's like we just can't. We're not supposed to talk about the subject.
No, it's the elephant in the room. And if they'd like to learn more about my nephew's story, they could visit rememberingmattperna.com. And we have an upcoming fundraiser because we have started a foundation in his name, and we're going to continue his generosity through this foundation. And we have a 5K coming up, so that information is on our website if anybody would like to run with that.
And what is that website?
It is rememberingmattperna.com.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.